والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولا شبيه ولا مثيل له ولا ضد ولا ند ولا جسد ولا صورة ولا أعضاء له. كان الله ولا مكان، فهو الآن على ما عليه كان. فلا تضربوا لله الأمثال، ولله المثل الأعلى. تنزه ربي عن الجلوس والقعود، وعن الحركة والسكون، وعن الاتصال والانفصال. لا يحل فيه شيء ولا ينحل منه شيء ولا يحل هو في شيء، لأنه ليس كمثله شيء. مهما تصورت ببالك فالله لا يشبه ذلك. ومن وصف الله بمعنى من معاني البشر فقد كفر. وأشهد أن سيدنا وعظيمنا وقائدنا وقرة أعيننا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله ونبيه وصفيه وحبيبه وخليله، أرسله الله هدى ورحمة للعالمين، هاديا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه سراجا وهاجا وقمرا منيرا. اللهم صل وسلم وأعظم وأنعم وأكرم على هذا النبي الكريم سيدنا محمد خاتم النبيين، وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين، ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولا شبيه ولا مثيل له ولا ضد ولا ند ولا جسد ولا صورة ولا أعضاء له. I praise Allah, I glorify Him, and I thank Him for all the blessings that He gives without Him being obligated to give anything. And I ask Allah to raise the rank of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and to protect his Muslim nation. I testify no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, the one without a partner, the one without an equal, the one without a similar, the one who is unlike anything in the universe, and nothing in the universe is like Him. He has no father, no mother, no sister, no brother, no son, and no daughter. He exists without time and place because He is the creator of time and place. He does not reside above the throne, and He is not attributed with fatigue, like the non-Muslims say. Our Lord is glorified beyond any imperfection that the non-Muslims attribute to Him. Whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah Ta'ala does not resemble that, and whoever attributes an attribute of the creations to Allah is outside of Al-Islam. And I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the son of Abdullah, the son of Abdul Muttalib, the son of Hashim, the son of Abdul Manaf, from the tribe of Quraysh, is the best creation of Allah and His final prophet and messenger sent to all humans and jinn. And He is truthful about everything that He conveyed of the revelation. Thereafter, remind ourselves to have the sincere intention for the sake of Allah in attending the session of Islamic knowledge, because having the sincere intention is a requirement to get the reward. So the Muslim, whenever he does a good deed, he has to have the sincere intention for the sake of Allah to get reward for that good deed. The reward is defined as the compensation that the Muslim receives in the hereafter for the good deeds that he did in this life among what makes him happy. An example of the reward that is guaranteed to the righteous Muslim in the grave is that his grave is expanded approximately 105 feet by 105 feet, and his grave is illuminated with a light similar to the light of the full moon, and the fragrance of paradise will be present in the grave. The sincere intention means for the Muslim to do the good deed, seeking the acceptance of Allah only, and not the praise of the people. So alhamdulillah, we are grateful to Allah that we have been guided to al-Islam. because Islam is the only true religion. Islam is the only valid religion. Islam is the only religion accepted by the Creator of the universe, as is proven by verse 19 of Surah Al-Imran, Inna ad-deena inda Allahi al-Islam, which means indeed the only accepted religion to Allah is al-Islam. And verse 85 of Surah Al-Imran, وَمَن يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَن يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ, which means indeed the one who seeks a religion for himself other than al-Islam, it will never be accepted from him, and in the hereafter he will be among the losers. And so we are grateful for that, because we would not have been guided to al-Islam had it not been for the guidance from Allah. وَمَا كُنَّا لِنَهْتَدِيَ لَوْلَا أَنْ هَدَانَ اللَّهُ. We're also grateful and thankful to Allah that we have been guided to the knowledge of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, which is the saved group. Just as the Prophet ﷺ, he said in the hadith, وَإِنَّ أُمَّتِي سَتَفْتَرِقُ إِلَى 73 فِرْقَةً كُلُّهَا فِي النَّارِ إِلَّا وَاحِدَةً وَهِيَ الْجَمَاعَةِ, which means that this nation will split up into 73 groups. All of them will be in hellfire except for one, and that is the congregation, al-Jama'ah. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he told us that this nation will split up into 73 groups, and that only one group is the correct group. And when he described that correct group, he said it is al-Jama'ah, the congregation. And in another narration he said as-Sawadul A'zam. In another narration he said ma ana alayhi wa ashabi. So these narrations joined together with other narrations, they tell us that the way for us to know who is the saved group or who is the ones that are on the correct path, we can know that by looking at the majority. So if you were to ask all the people who identify as Muslims who was the first rightful caliph, the majority of them, they would say Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, and only a minority among them would say that it was supposed to be al-Imam Ali radiyallahu anhu. So we know that those people who say that minority, that they are not the saved group, we know that they are misguided. And also, if you ask the people who identify as Muslims, how many prayers are we obligated to pray in a day? The majority of the people who identify as Muslims, they'll say 5 daily prayers. We're obligated to pray 5 daily prayers. And only a minority amongst those who claim to be Muslim will say that we're obligated only to pray 3 times a day. And some of them would deny the amount and say that it's less than 3. And some would say that we're not obligated to pray at all. So we know that these people, that they say that, we know that they are misguided and that they are not on the correct path. So alhamdulillah for Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah for being guided to the saved group, especially during a time of chaos where many people, they would be Muslims in the morning and they would be non-Muslims by the sunset, and they would be Muslims at night and they would be non-Muslims by the dawn, and they would sell out their religion for a petty worldly price, just as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. Continuing on with warning against some books. First, we warned against reading through books indiscriminately. It is not the way of acquiring knowledge just to read books on your own, because in order for the person to be considered that they have acquired knowledge, they have to have the connected chain leading back to the Prophet ﷺ, because he is the one who received the revelation and he is the one who was sent and ordered to convey the information. And so the information can only come from him. And so if the person does not have a connected chain leading back to the Prophet ﷺ, whatever he says in al-Islam, it has no credibility. Secondly, the Prophet ﷺ, he did make this issue clear, and he did speak about the condition for the knowledge. He said, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ وَإِنَّمَا الْفِقْهُ بِالتَّفَقُّهِ, which means, indeed, the knowledge only occurs through learning, and the understanding of the religion only occurs through acquisition. So, once the person has acquired a certain amount of knowledge, and he has a certain amount of experience, and he has gathered a certain amount of information, then there is no harm if that person who is qualified, he reads through some books which are at the level of the knowledge that he has gathered, so he is able to distinguish within the contents of that book what is correct and what is not correct. He is not taking it as a way of him getting information or getting knowledge, instead using it more of a resource or research, or sometimes even for what is called istitnas, for leisure, just for leisure, but not as a main way or a main form of getting knowledge, which unfortunately nowadays many of the people out there who they claim to be learned, or they claim to have knowledge, or they present themselves as people of knowledge, and they think highly of themselves, and they think that they have reached some level of knowledge. In reality, the only thing that they do is that they read on their own. So this is incorrect, this is invalid, it is not credible. The one who reads books on his own is most likely going to be misguided, because number one, he can't understand what he's reading. Number two, he's not going to know what is correct and what is not correct. He would just take whatever is inside of that book, and of course that would lead to misguidance. So that's the main thing. First thing that we warned against. Second thing is we warned against certain books. The first book that we warned against is a book that is authored by someone named Abdul Wahhab al-Najjar. So we warned from this book called Qasas al-Anbiya, yani what's known as Stories of the Prophets. The reason for that is because of some of the bad things that are mentioned in that book. Among them is that there is an insult to the angels in that book. Basically, there is an accusation of the angels, claiming that the angels, that they were degrading Prophet Adam alayhi salam, which of course is not true. And we responded to that, we refuted that. We said that the angels, they would never do such a thing. And to claim that the angels would degrade Prophet Adam alayhi salam is an insult itself to the angels. And we mentioned the explanation of the ayah. قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء. We said that the meaning of this verse is not to talk bad about Prophet Adam alayhi salam, that instead this is referring to the species of humans, that the angels, they had some knowledge about some of what the human beings were going to do on the earth. So we responded to that, and now we're going to warn against another book. It's called Fi Dhilal al-Quran, which means in the shades of the Quran, and another one that's called At-Taswir al-Fanni fi al-Quran, which means the artistic imagery in the Quran, and both of these are authored by a highly misguided person called himself Sayyid Qutb. So among the books that it is an obligation, an emphatic obligation to warn against, are the authorings of Sayyid Qutb, who was a misguided person at the beginning of his, or at the onset or at the start of his journey. He was a journalist, a Marxist journalist, and then he became the spokesperson or the face of the misguided, evil, blasphemous group known around the world. They call themselves, which is not permissible to call them that, they call themselves the Muslim Brotherhood. In Arabic, they're known as Hizbul Ikhwan. And these people, of course, They do not have the Islamic creed. There's many blasphemous things that they have. Among them is that they believe that if a Muslim, he lives under secular rule, if he lives in a country where the government does not implement the Islamic law, that misguided group, the so-called Muslim Brotherhood, they claim if a Muslim lives under that government and does not revolt and take up arms to overthrow that government, they say that that Muslim living under that secular rule exits Islam. And of course, by that they would be, even if that Muslim living in that secular country does not agree with their implementation of the man-made law, but they say as long as that Muslim is not revolting, then he is a kafir. And of course, by that they judge as non-Muslims the entire Muslim nation, because as of now there is no place on earth that implements the Islamic law. And we'll get into details about that aspect of their creed, but they are hypocritical. They started off in Egypt. They had a strong movement, and there was a time in the history of Egypt, maybe 70s, 80s, where they unalived many Muslims under this supposed fake rule that they made up, saying that whoever lives in a secular rule and doesn't revolt is a non-Muslim, so they deemed their blood lawful to be spilled, and they deemed their property lawful to be taken. So they unalived many Muslim politicians, and saying that these people, they were non-Muslims because they followed the secular law, or they applied or lived under the secular law, and they did not apply the Islamic law. But then, when they themselves got involved in politics, they themselves became elected to the parliament, then all of a sudden they abandoned that principle of theirs, and they did not judge themselves as non-Muslims, as do these misguided groups, where they just spew their misguidance because of worldly agendas, and they really don't hold on to their principles. So, on top of that, this person, Sayyid Qutb, besides the great deviance that occurred in his book, and besides the great deviance that occurred around his principle of judging the entire humanity as non-Muslims, he also likened Allah to the creations, and he named Allah with a blasphemous name, which is something that is not permissible to do. He said that Allah, and it's blasphemous to say that, he said that Allah is the creating feather. And he said, also blasphemous, he said that Allah is the managing mind. And he called Allah Al-Aqlul Mudabbir, and the like among the bad words that the scholars of Islam judged as making the person exit from Islam. And also Sayyid Qutb, he insulted Prophet Moses alayhi salam, and Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, and Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, and we seek refuge with Allah from that blasphemy. So let the person be warned against the authorings of this evil man who called the people to the destruction of Islam and to chaos and to unaliving unjustly and to destroying infrastructure and to opening the door for people to exit from Islam. His ignorance led him to insult and to talk bad about Prophet Moses alayhi salam in his book that he calls the artistic imagery in the Quran. He said about Prophet Moses alayhi salam, let us take Moses. He is an example of the temperamental leader. Na'udhu billah. Basically, he said that Prophet Moses alayhi salam, that he is a hothead. Na'udhu billah. And he says in the next page, and let's leave him here and let's meet him at another era of his life after 10 years, for perhaps he might have calmed down and become a man of a calm temperament and slow to anger. Na'udhu billah. How do you talk about something like that? But so the way that he wrote is like a novelist. So that was his appeal, and what I guess set him apart from others, that he wrote like a novelist. Also, he accuses Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam in the same book that he was weak in front of the wife of the governor. Na'udhu billah. And he accuses Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam as doubting. And he says, this is what he says. He says, and Abraham, his story begins as a young adult looking at the heavens. And so he sees the star and he thinks it is his God. And then when that star disappears, he says, I do not like things that disappear. And then he looks another time and he sees the moon, so he thinks it is his Lord. However, it also goes away. And also he leaves it and continues. And he leaves it and moves on. And then he looks at the sun. And so he is in wonder of the sun. He is bewildered by the sun and how it's so big. And he thinks to himself, no doubt this is a God. However, his thought, or what he thought, it is met with disappointment again, because of course the sun disappears. This is how he talks. This is what he was saying about Prophet Abraham alayhi salam, and of course that is blasphemous. The response to that blasphemous speech is that this is contradictory to the creed of Al-Islam, that the prophets alayhimus salatu wassalam, that they are impeccable, that Allah Ta'ala, that their impeccability is necessary religiously, meaning that we are obligated religiously to attribute the impeccability to the prophets, and that they are religiously, necessarily protected from blasphemy and enormous sins and small abject sins before and after prophethood. So the impeccability, it means that Allah Ta'ala, He preserved the prophets. He specified them to be protected from blasphemy and from enormous sins and from small abject sins, and that their natures are repelled away from those things, and so they wouldn't do it. While the prophets, they still have within them the natural ability of choice. So the prophets, they are protected from that, and they're still humans, and they don't commit those things because Allah Ta'ala, and He made their nature that it's repelled away from blasphemy and enormous sins and small abject sins, and along with them having the natural ability to choose, meaning that they choose obedience, they choose belief over blasphemy, they choose obedience over disobedience, and Allah Ta'ala protects them from these types of sins, from blasphemy, enormous sins, and small abject sins, small sins that show a low character. As for the saying of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam about the star, when he saw it, هَذَا رَبِّي, it is not to concur or confirm. It is not a statement of saying that this is the case. Rather, it is a negative interrogative. It is a rhetorical way of speaking that is used for negation. And this is something that even today in 2025 many people use it. Let's say there was a product, or let's say a restaurant that your friend told you this is a good restaurant, this is a great restaurant, the food is good. Then you get there and the food tastes bad and the service is even worse. And so you tell your friend, this is a good restaurant. It's not you're saying this is a good restaurant, you're saying this is a bad restaurant. Same way Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam said, هَذَا رَبِّي, to refute his people, because the Babylonians, they worshipped the stars, the celestial bodies, the stars and the sun and the moon. And so he, for example, pointed to them, they would see it, and he showed them, look, these things, they disappear, they go away, they change. Therefore, they don't deserve to be worshipped. And so that's when he said, هَذَا رَبِّي, and the meaning is, this thing that changes is not my Lord. This thing that you worship doesn't deserve worship, therefore it's not my Lord. It didn't create me. So it is as if Prophet Abraham said, is this my Lord as you claim? And then when that star moved and went away, he said, I do not love those things that change. That is, they are not suitable. This thing is not suitable to be a creator. This thing is not suitable to be worshipped. So how do you guys believe it? Or how do you worship this? Or how do you have that creed? And when those people, they did not understand what Prophet Abraham alayhi salam was getting at, rather they remained upon their blasphemy. So then he did the same thing when he saw the moon, in hopes that they would listen, and in hopes that it would click for them and they would be guided to what is correct. So he did the same thing when he saw the moon, to show that those things do not deserve to be worshipped, and the same thing when the sun appeared. And then after that, when he saw that they were not convinced and that they weren't getting it, he disassociated himself from those things, and he proclaimed that those things, they don't deserve to be worshipped, and that those things are not his creator, and he disassociated himself completely from that. And Allah Ta'ala praised the reasoning and the rational evidence that Prophet Abraham alayhi salam used against his people in the ayah, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ رُشْدَهُ مِن قَبْلِ, which means, and we had given Prophet Abraham alayhi salam his guidance. And also in another ayah, it praises the fact that Allah Ta'ala inspired or gave Prophet Abraham alayhi salam that the ability to reason and use as a rational evidence, the rational evidence to refute his people. And here we would like to emphasize the point that the explanation of the Quran, it does not occur and it is not permissible for anyone, let's say, that has some writing skills to invent interpretations and to author about the meanings of the verses as he sees fit from his own opinion, or however his devil might decorate for him, just as it has been the case for Sayyid Qutb, without taking into consideration the rules of the religion, and without avoiding what does not befit Allah and the Prophets among these statements and phrases that contain insulting Allah Ta'ala, and attributing resemblance to Allah, and attributing attributes of creations to Allah, and attributing attributes of imperfection to the Prophets, by claiming that this is to somehow improve the tafsirs, the old tafsirs, or by claiming that this is by using supposedly the modern style in order to attract readers, or to for whatever reason, for whatever agenda. There is no justification to speak about the Quran something that is not correct, or from one's own opinion. Na'udhu billah. These people, like Sayyid Qutb, they spoke about the prophets without etiquette, and they of course blasphemed. And also this person, Sayyid Qutb, he did not learn from the people of knowledge. He did not attend the sessions of knowledge, and he is not a person who has any credibility in Islam in terms of the knowledge. Now we're going to warn against the book that is called مع الأنبياء في القرآن الكريم, which translates into with the prophets in the honorable Quran. And other than that book, that is authored by a person named Afif Tabbaarah. Na'udhu billah. This person is a contemporary person. This person, he was born in Beirut in 1923. And he has this book called مع الأنبياء في القرآن الكريم. And in this book he goes against explicit confirmed hadiths, as you're going to see. So we're going to warn against it. So among what is an obligation to warn against are the authoring of a person named Afif Tabbaarah. Among them is this book called Ma'al Anbiya fil Quran al-Kareem. In this book, this person, he says nonsensical things. He says chaotic things about the place of paradise in which Prophet Adam alayhi salam was created in. And so he rejects what the Muslims have been on as a consensus until today. So among what he says is, na'udhu billah, and of course is misguidance and unfounded, and it's in line with the way that this new style of misguided person who claims to be Muslim or claims to be some sort of scholar or teacher of Islam, they say explicit blasphemy and they just make things up and they don't have any evidence or proof for what they're saying, and it's straight up misguidance. So what he's about to say, or this thing that he mentions, is incorrect. He said the dominant opinion or the weighty opinion or the correct opinion is that this paradise that Adam was created in is on earth. Na'udhu billah. That's explicit blasphemy. Right? To say that the paradise that Prophet Adam alayhi salam, that he was created in, to say that that paradise is on earth is against the consensus of the Muslims, and it is blasphemous. Na'udhu billah. So he means by that the paradise in which Prophet Adam alayhi salam lived. Where does he get this from? Because it has been confirmed in the hadith that Prophet Adam alayhi salam was created in paradise, just as it is mentioned in the authentic book of Al-Bukhari and Muslim and other than them. As for the saying that Prophet Adam alayhi salam was created on the earth and then he came down from a part of it to another part of it, this has no chain of connection or any chain that is relied upon. Rather, it is a saying that was said by someone who is not taken into consideration, and someone who is not followed in what they said. Allah Ta'ala revealed in Al-Quran, إِنَّ لَكَ أَلَّا تَجُوعَ فِيهَا وَلَا تَعْرَى وَأَنَّكَ لَا تَظْمَأُ فِيهَا وَلَا تَضْحَى. Which means that Adam alayhi salam, he would never feel thirst in it, and he would never feel the heat of the sun. And which place on this earth in the world will the person not feel hunger and thirst and feel the heat of the sun? And what is famously known in history is that Prophet Adam alayhi salam, that he descended upon the mountain of Sarandib, and this is a place or a land of ancient India known as Sri Lanka today. And Lady Eve, she descended in Jeddah, which is a place in the Arabian Peninsula, and the devil, he descended in a place called Al-Ubullah, which is in modern day Iraq, and besides Al-Basra. And it has been famously known to the people of knowledge that Adam alayhi salam, he was buried in the mosque Al-Khayf in Mina, and it's mentioned that many prophets are buried there, but their graves are not apparently known. And among what is used to refute the claim of that misguided person is what Al-Hakim narrated in Al-Mustadrak from Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, that he said, ما سكن آدم الجنة إلا ما بين صلاة العصر إلى غروب الشمس. Which means Prophet Adam alayhi salam did not live in paradise except what is between the Asr prayer and the sunset. And also it is narrated from him that when Adam alayhi salam first descended to the earth, it was in India. And also it's narrated from him that he said that Al-Imam Ali radiyallahu anhu said that the most fragrant air, the most fragrant wind on the earth is in India, where Prophet Adam alayhi salam descended. And so some of the fragrance from Prophet Adam alayhi salam from the winds of paradise attached itself to the trees. And it's narrated from Al-Hakim as well, or Hakim narrated as well from Abu Bakr, the son of Abi Musa al-Ash'ari. He said, indeed Allah Ta'ala, when He made Adam alayhi salam exit from paradise, and He gave him from the fruits of paradise, or He gave him from the fruits of paradise, and made Adam know how to construct everything on earth, or how to build everything on earth, how to make everything on earth. And so these fruits that you have are from the fruits of paradise, except that these change and those don't change. Yani, so this is narrated from Imam Ali as well. Yani, all this is narrated and being mentioned to show that Prophet Adam alayhi salam, his origin is from paradise, and that the case is not how this person Tabbaarah said, that the paradise in which Prophet Adam alayhi salam was born in, or that he came from, is somewhere on earth. Na'udhu billah. So all these hadiths are against the saying of Afif Tabbaarah and whoever followed him, because in some of them it's mentioned that Allah Ta'ala gave provisions to Prophet Adam alayhi salam, provided Prophet Adam alayhi salam with some things before descending from paradise. But after descending to the earth, these things changed, and the fruits of paradise do not change. And so this contains the most clear clarification of the corruption of the saying that Adam alayhi salam was created on the earth in a place that has a garden, and then he was taken out from that place to another place on earth. And also the hadith of Abdullah, the son of Abbas radiallahu anhuma, the amount of time that Prophet Adam alayhi salam lived in paradise is like the amount between al-asr and the sunset. And this, it is not possible to interpret this according to the normal way of telling time in the dunya, because between the time of asr and the time of sunset, except that those 6 days which in those first 6 days that where the heavens and the earth were created, each one of them was 1,000 years long. So what is between the asr and the sunset relative to those days is a long time relative to this 24-hour day. Then if it was the case that this paradise that Prophet Adam alayhi salam was in, as that person claims, was on earth, then this would be a known place that the people would go there all the time. However, there is no such place on earth with this description. Allah. Subhanallah. Adam alayhi salam, he is the father of humanity. And that misguided person, he claims in that same book, na'udhu billah, of course that's blasphemous as well, he says that Adam is not the first one to inhabit the earth, rather that before him there were other humans. And this is contradicting explicitly what has been authenticated and confirmed from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. إن الناس يوم القيامة يذهبون إلى آدم لطلب الشفاعة يقولون يا آدم أنت أبو البشر, which means indeed the people on Judgment Day, they will go to Adam alayhi salam seeking the intercession. They will say, "O Adam, you are the first human, or the father of humanity." And it's confirmed in another narration, Ya Adamu anta awwalun nas. In another narration is confirmed that the people would say, "O Adam, you are the first of people." This person, Afif Abdul Fattah Tabbaarah, he accuses Prophet Abraham alayhi salam of idol worship. So among what is an obligation to warn against is what this person mentioned in his book, that he mentioned ignorantly and of course in a slandering way about Prophet Abraham alayhi salam. He said Abraham looked at one of the stars that were passing, and among what his people used to worship and he would say, so the people would hear him. He would say in a way that the people would hear him. Now remember, what he's saying is blasphemy, and this is what Tabbaarah, Afif Tabbaarah is saying about Prophet Abraham alayhi salam, which is not true and incorrect. He's saying that Prophet Abraham would say, Hada Rabbi, so that the idol worshippers and stuff would hear him, so that they would think that he believes like them, and so that they would somehow be attracted to listening to him, because he would not be mocking and insulting their idols. Na'udhu billah. How sick and twisted is that? He's trying to say that he was placating them, that he was supposedly praising their idols to get them to like him so that they could embrace Islam. Na'udhu billah. The response to this is to say that that is a flat out lie about Prophet Abraham alayhi salam, because the prophets, Prophet Abraham alayhi salam, and other than him amongst the prophets, it is impossible that they would make it appear to the non-Muslims that they agree with any of their creeds, even pretending. And it's impossible to say or to attribute to a prophet that they would pretend to agree with the misguided creed of the idol worshippers. That is not from the style or the habit or the way of the prophets. Rather, all of them, they call to the truth and they order with the lawful and they forbid the unlawful. Allah Ta'ala revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَاصْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرُ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, which is an order for the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam to be firm in what he is ordered to do and to turn away from the idol worshippers. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he used to go to the gatherings of the idol worshippers and he used to tell them, Ayyuhan nas, qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu. So he used to go to the gatherings of the idol worshippers and he used to walk among them and he used to say to them, O people, say La ilaha illallah and you will prosper. And meaning embrace al-Islam by saying the Shahada and you will prosper and you would be guided and you would become Muslims. So that is the circumstance of the Prophets alayhimus salatu wassalam. It is not as the misguided author of that book claims. May Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon the one who showed us and taught us how to acquire the knowledge from the mouths of the trustworthy, knowledgeable people, and not by merely perusing through the books and taking from every single source, basically mixing the poison with the remedy. The one who takes the knowledge from a sheikh and by acquisition, by learning, he would be protected and he would avoid perversion and misguidance. And the one who merely reads the books, then his knowledge to the people of knowledge is non-existent. وَمَنْ يَأْخُذِ الْعِلْمَ عَنْ شَيْخٍ مُشَافَهَةً يَكُنْ عَنِ الزَّيْغِ وَالتَّصْحِيفِ فِي حَرَمِ وَمَنْ يَكُنْ آخِذًا لِلْعِلْمِ عَنْ صُحُفٍ فَعِلْمُهُ عِنْدَ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ كَالْعَدَمِ. So this basically is a line of poetry condemning those who just read books. Subhanallah. I did think that we were going to finish this class, but there's still 2 more chapters left. So inshallah, next class we'll finish, inshallah, and then after that, next week, inshallah, we finish this subject matter. Then After that, we'll start with the signs of the hour. So we'll talk about the signs of the hour, inshallah. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. Are there any questions? طيب نهلل لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ربي اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات وبارك الله فيكم السلام عليكم. It's already taken, Habibi.